Good morning and welcome to the Global Refining and Petrochemicals Congress GRPC 2020 Virtual Conference and Exhibition. My name is Anisha Nayar Dhawan and I'm your host for the day. The COVID-19 crisis has accelerated what was already shaping up to be the oil industry's most transformative moments. With the global middle classes now spending much less on all things made from oil, such as fuels for discretionary transportation, the oil and gas industry has experienced its third price collapse in 12 years. The pandemic has also increased the pace of global decarbonization, with the world focusing on sustainable ways to return to a new normal post-corona world. Supply chains are set to become shorter, given a reluctance to buy anything that must travel long distances. Reductions in air pollution levels during lockdown phase around the world have also sparked the need for long-term improvements in sustainable practices. The refining industry will thus have to adapt quickly. In the face of lower prices and competitive margin pressures, those refiners who do not become smart will probably be left by the wayside. There is no doubt that agile refiners who are using automation, analytics, and artificial intelligence have had a faster response and turnaround time to the disruptions brought about by the corona pandemic. While technology will come to the rescue to meet changing demands of customers, the refining sector will also have to find ways to lower the environmental impact of their operations, given more stringent regulatory norms might kick in soon. So, how do refiners create value in the next normal? Will digital agility, cost competitiveness, and strong balance sheets separate the men from the boys? Can companies use this crisis to reposition their portfolios and transform their operating models to emerge as winners? As the global industry grapples to find answers to these and other critical issues, GRPC, India's flagship forum dedicated to each link of the downstream value chain, is here. It provides a virtual platform for the industry to keep the conversation going, exchange their views on formulating strategies to overcome the unexpected disruptions, identify upcoming trends, and network with their global peers. We are honored to have eminent professionals from the industry, leading organizations, and regulatory bodies who have joined us today to share their expert insights on the downstream sector. Addressing a range of key issues facing the industry, our panel of experts will help the audience in identifying the right fit for achieving excellence in innovation, sustainability, and safety, while also removing flap and obsolescence from every area of downstream operations. Before I introduce our expert panel, a quick word about the organizers. The Energy and Climate Initiative Society, NCIS, is a registered not-profit organization that supports, encourages, and catalyzes the development, discussion, and dissemination of consequential research and projects in energy and climate protection industries. Our event partners, i10 Media, are India's leading organizers of international exhibitions and conferences across oil and gas and power and energy industries. i10 services its customers through its distinctive range of high-quality trade information services and marketing opportunities, delivering value-added business and networking opportunities for its customers. The organizers would like to pay their respectful homage to late Shri Anand Kumar Ji, former Director, R&D, Indian Oil Corporation, who left for his heavenly abode on 30th August this year. Shri Kumar was the honorary chairman of NCIS, and GRPC was founded in 2015 under his kind guidance. A selfless soul, fountainhead of knowledge, and a Karm Yogi, Shri Anand Kumar Ji was among the most loved and respected leaders of the oil and gas industry. He was an inspiration, a mentor, and a fatherly figure to thousands. His simplicity, humbleness, and willingness to help everyone who came in touch with him made him one of the tallest leaders in the oil and gas industry in India. GRPC 2020 is fondly dedicated in the loving memory of Shri Anand Kumar Ji. Om Shanti. I would now like to request Shri K. Jain, Executive Director, Center of High Technology, Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas, Government of India, To kickstart the proceedings of this virtual conference and deliver his opening address, Mr. Jain has been working with Indian Oil since 1982 and has wide experience in downstream refining industry for more than 3.5 decades while working at various Indian oil refineries, corporate optimization, and business development groups. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Jain. Over to you.
Thanks, Anisha. Eminent panelists, distinguished speakers, exhibitors, delegates from oil and petrochemical industries, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure and honor to welcome you all in the Global Refining Petrochemical Congress, the fourth edition, through this virtual conference and exhibition being organized by the Energy and Climate Initiative Society, ANSYS, founded by late Sri Anand Kumarji, the honorary chairman ANSYS, and also the former director R&D, Indian Oil Corporation, a visionary, a mentor. Sri Anand Kumarji was a great fighter and a leader. He made immense contribution to the oil and gas community while working in different roles at Indian Oil Corporation and also as honorary chairman ANSYS. Dear friends, the world is going to add roughly 2 billion people in next 30 years, including millions more in India. Hence, world will require more and more energy. There is a broad consensus that the greenhouse gas emissions are leading to global warming. Widespread consensus is also growing that the transition to zero carbon energy sources should be accelerated to mitigate the impact of global warming and its associated changes that are coming to our society. In fact, the oil gas companies are now changing their strategies from oil companies to integrated energy company, focusing on all sources of energy to provide energy affordability, energy reliability, and carbon neutrality. Recently, the Japan government has announced its commitment to bring carbon neutrality by 2050. India faces dual challenge of meeting its growing energy demand while reducing GHG emission as per its commitment. Thus, it will require a rapid scaling of a wide spectrum of energy sources and technological solutions focused on cleaner and renewable energy. The world is passing through a crisis never seen before by the humankind. The series of lockdowns and the restrictions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 virus has led to severe restrictions and dent on global economic activities. In fact, a reset button has been pressed to have a fresh look on all economic activities due to change in business style, change in behavior, and also the living style. As per IEA, the global energy demand is set to drop by 5% in 2020, energy related investment by around 18%. The impact varies by types of fuel. However, it is estimated that the oil demand will fall by around 8%, natural gas demand by around 3%, and coal demand by 7%, in contrast to the rise in contribution of the renewables and with solar at the center of electricity generation. An unprecedented decline in crude oil demand has sent a shockwave across the global oil and gas industries, forcing them to rethink and re-strategize for sustainable business. Amidst all this, how would the market will fare in short-term and long-term basis due to change in business style and inroads of IT and OT technology solutions? How will the development of electric vehicles, biofuels, and renewable power will affect the oil and gas business? The GRPC 2020 is going to provide a right platform to bring together the refining and petrochemical community from India and abroad to discuss and deliberate the theme. The next generation downstream industry is smart to sustainable. This one-day event is designed to ensure that emerging key issues are discussed and addressed in a holistic manner in a way that we can deepen our understanding on the issues and prepare us with the solutions to address the challenges through new opportunities that are now available through state of art process technologies, next generation catalyst, and advanced digital IT and OT solutions. I'm sure that GRPC 2020 will provide us opportunity to equip us with the right kind of solutions and thought process to make refining and petrochemical business future ready with agility and sustainability. With this, I wish to thank ANSYS team to provide me an opportunity to share my views, and I'm happy to extend my best wishes for great success of this event. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mr. Jain, for your address. Very important points raised by you that today oil and gas companies want to be seen as energy companies and not just be focused on the type of energy. They have to be sustainable and they have to be holistic. Thank you so much, sir. Next, we have a special address by Srimati Vartika Shukla, Director Technical EIL. Ms. Shukla has 27 years of experience in process design and development, extensive experience all across the hydrocarbon chain, that is refining petrochemicals, gas processing, and sulfur technologies. Thank you so much for being with us today, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Anisha. Am I audible, Anisha?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
So good morning to all, and good morning to the distinguished panel, which is here with us in the inaugural. My compliments to GRPC and to ANSYS for organizing this event in the midst of more of a situation which is fluid in a lot of terms, to get us all on board to share the perspective that we have in the refining and the petrochemical industry. And before I begin, I would like to remember Mr. Anand Kumar, who has been, in his simplicity, but with immense clarity, provide leadership and statesmanship to the entire oil and gas industry. He was the member of our Research Advisory Council in EIL and has steered a lot of initiatives that we wish to undertake in the future. There would be seldom a person in the oil and gas industry whose lives he would not have touched. So my memories, with fond memories, and his style of leadership will always remain ingrained in our minds. Now, this is the kind of leadership in the world that we are today, is very important to bring together an integration of diverse priorities, diverse positioning, diverse needs, diverse aspirations. And the challenge is not just in the oil and gas industry, but this challenge lies in leadership all across the globe and faces each and every dimension of the industry. Specifically, as EDCHT has mentioned, the imperative to give each citizen of the nation clean air, lower the GHG emissions and CO2 emissions is in complete dichotomy to provide clean, sustainable, and affordable energy to all, which each and every citizen has an absolute right to. And this is necessary because if we see an average person in India, they consume, the US citizen is almost 12 times that the energy is consumed in India. So it is definitely each and every citizen's right and necessity that the density of energy and the quantum of energy per capita is increased. Now, to integrate as these diverse needs and to maintain a balance which is diagonally opposite to each other, I think this is the test of time which each leadership faces, and not only leadership, but is also technology, the organization as a whole, as also policy making, because several of these initiatives cannot be steered without intervention of policy. Now, I'll cover 2 or 3 aspects which actually will shape the oil and gas industry in the future. One is already a very crystallized form in terms of accelerating the efforts towards realization of a gas-based economy. Natural gas forming the bridging fuel between the crude oil and migration to renewable. As EDCHT is also mentioned, the rate of renewable, the penetration of that in the energy mix is perhaps the fastest the globe has ever seen. To bring the nation to one gas grid, to discover pricing of gas, to make pricing of gas as a responsible pricing, it is akin to one nation, one fuel, which we had in BS6. The platform for gas marketing, which is in its initial stages, but the global pricing of LNG and the rising demand, coupled with the need of climate change, has actually given the impetus to this platform to grow in the future. EIL, as a responsible organization and with a strong technical team, has also undertaken several studies in all sectors, in particular refineries, to see the impact in the increasing of GRM with continuous gas penetration into its fuel mix. The second thing which I would like to touch upon is, as we see refining industry, it is going to go more and more integrated. We have been saying this for several years, that each and every molecule from the refinery stream has to be monetized. But as we see other sectors which are undergoing disruption, here also the penetration of the crude to chemical technology, which will have a kind of a place in the configurations in the refinery of the futures, will need to have examining both for brownfield projects as well as grassroots projects. The percentage of petrochemicals which were incidental and later on purpose can be enhanced to almost 45 to 70% of crude in case we adopt the refining and the crude to chemical technologies. Of course, these technologies, like several others which the industry has adopted, are in a stage of evaluation, but it is not very far away where they will actually form the main crux of the refinery investment and configuration. And I say that because there is going to be we see that there is likely to be a change in the way the transportation sector is being looked at, and the way policy initiatives and the way the thrust is given to bring up the sector with the various kind of fuels penetrating into the transportation sector. Now, besides this aspect, when we look at other petrochemicals, we look at intermediates, there is a lot of changes which the industry has to adopt in terms of supply chain, particularly for the petrochemical intermediates. That is a whole new dimension and a whole new business which has to be looked at from end to end by the oil marketing companies. And as was stated, turning energy companies, oil companies into integrated energy companies is part of this game. Now, as for the industry, EIL has been always upfront in giving the state-of-art designs in the crude and vacuum unit. We have over 35 technologies which are either ours or owned jointly with our partners, and these technologies, which are in the realm of Atmanirbhar Bharat, is a continuous improvement process and are ready to be deployed both in brownfield and grassroots projects. We are also prepared to go forward in the future dimension of crude to petrochemicals and examine these configurations in view of the changing technology options which are available in terms of residue processing, residue hydroprocessing, residue hydrocracking, and conversion of a lot of building blocks into very valuable intermediates and petrochemicals. Now, the third thing which I mentioned a while back in terms of the changing nature of transportation, the disruption in mobility, as to say, is likely to see several options available with the consumer, and it is going to be the market which will drive which way the consumer choice goes. not just the market, which may have intervention of policy as well. How we look at the subsidies and the impetus which is given to the electrification and also to renewable. These are the two factors which are likely to play a significant role into the configurations and the demand of the fuels in the transportation sector. So companies becoming more horizontal as energy companies, these choices shall also be enabled by support and the mandates which are likely to be in place as we go along in terms of percentages of renewables into the fuel. Hydrogen is another role, a significant player which can emerge. Either the blue hydrogen is definitely in the future, but intermediate hydrogen from natural gas is likely to see, penetrating into the transportation sector. With respect to the area of biofuels, the options are plenty. Of course, the competing feedstock, the feedstock has to compete with various end users, and whichever is the most beneficial route towards either making the biogas or bioethanol, or looking at some of the feedstocks to renewable diesels, renewable ATF. These are the areas which will blend along with the refinery. In EIL, I'd like to share that we are very successfully implementing the ABRPL project, which is the first bamboo refinery in the nation, and are also prepared in terms of launching ourselves into partnering to development of areas which will augment the availability of technology in the nation towards expanding the portfolio of biofuels. So, of course, as these sectors are to be supported, a lot of fiscal incentives, tax credits are needing to be in place to give the hand-holding to make it to a full-scale deployment. The offtake by the OMCs, which has already been assured by some of the initiatives, is in place and is likely to support the industry investments in that sector. And as I mentioned earlier, the mandate in a minimum percentage to blend could be a driver for pushing these technologies. So hence these perspectives in terms of steering towards a larger gas mix in the nation, looking at 15% gas mix in primary energy by 2030, looking at a lot of technology interventions in converting crude to petrochemicals, and also diversifying the portfolio of the petrochemicals to intermediates and some other niche petrochemicals, and looking at the widening of the pool of the transportation fuels will need a lot of flexibility and agility for convergence by each and every organization. It would also need a vision towards steering this change. While maybe in our functional lifetime, it may not see a huge impact, but then each of us have to prepare, the organization has to prepare to be ready for change as and when it comes, so that it doesn't take anybody by, it gives the ability for the company to diversify the portfolio and be having the sustainable growth. So while we may not see it in immediate context, but this is something which the industry has to prepare with. So with this, I compliment once again NSIS for organizing the seminar, the virtual conference, as well as the exhibition. And to each of the sessions, my best wishes for all success to the participants and the chairman, and hope that the success in this year is much larger than GRPC has ever seen before. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vartika ma'am, for giving that address. we'd all like for India to switch over to gas. It's a cleaner fuel. And of course, petrochemical complexes will become integrated and more complex going ahead. But we also wish that we make gas locally because till now, half of our gas consumption is actually imported. And we'd also, need some investments in the exploration so that we are also Atmanirbhar in sourcing gas ourselves instead of just depending on imports. Thank you so much for that address, ma'am. Now, the theme for this year's GRPC 2020 is Next Gen Downstream, Smart to Sustainable. I would now request Shri Prasad K Panicker, Director Refinery, Nayar Energy, to deliver his theme address. Mr. Panicker began his career in Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited in 1982 and was previously the Executive Director at Kochi Refinery. Please welcome Mr. Panicker. Mr. Panicker, I think you're on mute. We cannot hear you. If you could unmute yourself.
Unmuted.
Yes, I can hear you now, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Is it okay now?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me first express my gratitude to the organizers of GRPC 2020 for this great opportunity. It is a great pleasure to meet with such distinguished speakers again and also be with the delegates who are participating in it. But also I express my tribute to the great Anand Kumar for being instrumental in such conferences. After a speech by EDCST and also the India's leading technologist, let me share my views as a refiner. A poor refiner now is in various difficult times for the refiners now. So when I was looking at this theme, smart to sustainable, it looks like something futuristic is the first thing I heard. But when I was thinking more about it, I found that this is something the refiners has to do as fast as possible to survive and thrive in the current context. So that is why I would appreciate again the organizers for bringing such a platform to discuss our issues, current issues. Friends, we are seeing many noises in the market where this energy is going. Sri K.K. Jain was speaking about gas, energy demand. Vartika was speaking about again gas, biofuel, and also resid upgradation. There are such voices are there, which we are all, most of us are actually eagerly waiting how it is going to evolve. Some of the positive vibes in the market is that India is going to almost double the energy demand by 2050. So currently we are almost 7% in global demand. We are going to be 11% by 2050. A good news for energy business people. So another is that refining capacity has to go up from 250 million, the current 250 million, to almost 400 million in the near future, maybe in 10 years. These are all optimism because we have to grow. The demography, our aspiration to grow, or rather our requirement to grow and our ability to grow is the reason why we are so optimistic. At the same time, we started talking about if the peak oil is over, there are views, some scenarios saying that peak oil is already done in 2019, it is over. Some are saying that it is not yet, it is going to come only later. But there is a consensus, as both my previous speakers said, the energy transition is bound to happen. There is no choice, it is going to happen. And most of the people wish to happen this transition so rapid that we would be able to limit our climate damage to 1.5 degrees centigrade. The reasons are very, very obvious. People started talking about forest fire, cyclone, flooding. Everything is now connected with this atmospheric temperature, 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees. And these impacts are quite visible. So we have to believe that this is going to happen. Commitments are there for a net zero emission. By 2050, many multinationals already declared their intention to be 2050. Some countries like Japan already saying a much earlier of 2035. And one day sooner, we also have to make a commitment when we are going to be net zero. In nutshell, business as usual is not sustainable, is very, very true. But today we need to discuss, are we ready for this transition as a country? Because we have to do, being a developing country, we have to do without impacting our growth potential, our growth aspiration. Being one of the leading developing countries, India is one country we have to be very judicious, careful, and selective in this process of transition, because we need billions and trillions of BTU in the coming years to ensure that our citizens are getting a decent way of life. Exactly as Ms. Vartika said, they have every right to consume energy and have a good life. So that is our challenge right now. So this transition may be an evolution. That is that one view, that it is going to be not a very disruptive thing. It may happen in 30, 40 years. So we have enough time to adapt to all these changes. But another view is that we cannot afford to have such an evolutionary movement. We need to be very drastic. Otherwise, we are going to have serious consequences at a later date. Then transition is going to have major impact, both on life, both on economics. So we need to have some kind of an urgency to go to, or making it a little faster in going in. Many reports indicates that, as Mr. Jain also said, oil is going to stay here for a reasonable future, maybe up to 10, 20, 30 years, obviously at a lower share in the energy mix. The impact is going to be more profound on coal, but oil is going to be one of the players in this. Obviously, natural gas is going to have a more share along with the other evolving or emerging fuels. But oil is going to have a major share, and many believe that the capacity of oil or the ability of oil generate capital is going to be used in our evolution for the next generation or transition to the next fuel. So oil has to be seriously viewed different from the current context in the next 20, 30 years for us to be very successful in this transition. In this context, what are the refineries to do? That is the question. Now, I am very happy that today we have got a lot of audience from refineries and petrochemicals. So since others have spoke about the global issues and the country issue, let me come back to what we need to do now. So we have to be smart enough. We have to be smart enough to first survive. For almost a year now, cracks are so small. We are unable to continue like this. Sustainability is in serious trouble. At least a percentage, maybe close to 20% of the global refining capacity, we will see closing down in 2020 and 2021 if we are going to have these kind of cracks and margins to continue. This is going to be a reality. But how we would be able to survive, especially refiners in India, has got a great potential because we are still a growing thing. I am not talking about the interruptions that is created by COVID. This is not a major issue. This will go, maybe in next year it will go. We will come back to the previous demands, hopefully by 22, 23. So we have to look beyond that and see how we are going to manage this transition in a profitable way. First thing is very clear. We have to learn and continue to operate at a capacity which is below 100%. That is nothing unusual. Only in India, we had the habit of operating at 110%, 20%. So this is up to 80 to 90% capacity is nothing unusual. That is the story happening in many, many other countries. So how to tune to this new reality, new normal, that how can we maximize our value from the refinery while we are operating at a lower capacity, potential is very, very high. Ms. Vartika also said product mix is going to change immediately because there is going to be a difference between the ratio between gas oil and gasoline is going to be different. Because if you see the trend, that is what is happening even before COVID between the diesel driven and gasoline driven vehicles. You can see a clearly evolving a trend that gasoline demand is going up. But most of our Indian refineries, unfortunately, designed for maximizing gas oil. So this is the thing we have to closely watch. We have to make a plan and be ready to invest at the most appropriate time. So Jane was talking about the new generation catalyst, a very extremely important thing. We have to look at it and we have to collaborate with the licensors and catalyst manufacturers to tune how to minimize the investment in the refinery, how we can address these issues by modifying the catalyst, which is obviously the low cost option. Fuel, we have to again look at it. Natural gas, we have to be a part of our fuel mix. Price discovery, as Vartika said, India is going to see a major policy changes in the gas. Already we have started seeing it, a national gas grid, a price discovery mechanism. So we should, if the refineries are not yet connected with the natural gas, we should look at that possibility immediately and get it connected, because minimizing fuel cost and minimizing carbon emission from this fuel is going to be there. Because almost 6 to 10% of the fuel, 6% is the refinery, and including the retail operations, excluding the automobile, 10% of the CO2 emission is being contributed by the refineries or oil companies. I'm talking excluding the automobile emission. So that 10% is a big number. So we have to expect some kind of a carbon tax. May not be soon, but we should be ready for that. So look at your fuel mix, ensure that the carbon emissions are low. Capital allocation in these difficult times has to be judicious. Difficult time doesn't mean COVID time, immediate future as well. Basically, because we have to be very clear how it is going to evolve, how this transition is going to be. So reconfiguration, if it is required, only if it is required, we have to attempt, because we have to add value from each and every molecule is a must, whether it is through fuel route, petrochemical route, that is going to be there. So benchmarking has to be very, very aggressively we have to do, because the energy intensity or any other benchmark things, we have to see and find out how globally competitive we are. Unless we measure ourselves, unless we identify the gap, we would find it extremely difficult to bridge it, and extremely difficult to have our capabilities built to compete in this market. Why this is going to happen? This transition is going to see many fuels. So fuel is going to be a choice of the customer. They will have oil-based fuel, they will have EVs, they will have green or blue hydrogen, they will have biofuel. So choice is there. So that is going to see a massive competition. So if you are able to operate your refineries with the minimum OPEX, then you are the successful thing. You have to compete with electric vehicles. Gasoline has to compete with electricity. Gasoline has to compete with the hydrogen fuel. So this is going to happen very soon. So that choice when customer has, we have to prepare for a day when we are competing not with another company of same product, with a totally different company with a different type of energy mix. That is the challenge immediately we have to address. Both the previous speakers spoke about petrochemical, whether it is from crude to chemical or whatever it be. The reality is that petrochemical is the hope for all of us. It is bound to grow as our people, our citizens growing on their status or standard of living. Petrochemical consumption is bound to go. We are much, much lower than the world average. We are much, much lower than in some of the developing countries. So it is going to happen even if the recycle technology evolves and recycle of petrochemicals is going to happen, which is going to be a reality, then still we have got a potential for growth. And refineries has got the best solution than independent refiners, independent naphtha crackers, or independent petrochemical. But if you are able to integrate very tightly the petrochemical with the refinery, we are going to be the most competitive, because the petrochemical normally survives based on the availability of feedstock, the OPEX, the CAPEX, and also the market. So most of the refineries are situated in such a way that we have got a strong marketing network. So it is extremely important that we have to find out, invest in petrochemicals. But which chemical? Plenty of petrochemicals. I know that all of you know that most thousands of petrochemicals, varying use, varying capex, varying requirement, varying environmental issues. So we have to be extremely careful where we are investing, which is this mix which is most suitable for us. That is the thing which we have to do. Safety, we have to be extremely careful, especially on process safety. Whenever we are talking about petrochemical, people are viewing us suspiciously, especially after the incident that recently happened in the LG Chemicals in Vizag. If you read the report, you will also be surprised with the way in which it has been organized, conducted. So process safety, whether it is in operation of refinery or petrochemical, we have to be extremely careful. We need to have, as a country also, I believe that we have got a long way to go on cultivating that behavior on process safety. Even now, we believe safety is something else. So process safety is something which I know that EAL is one of the agencies. I had a lot of opportunity to discuss about process safety. So we need collectively a lot of knowledge on process safety. We need to take care of that. Otherwise, a huge investment which we are expecting in petrochemical, probably there would be an issue. Last, my point is on digital. So there is no option. This is no more a choice. This is a necessity. This transition, we would be able to successfully maneuver, successfully complete only using digital tools. Otherwise, this is going to be completely disruptive. We have got great confidence that even if it is not evolution, if it is going to be little rapid, then if you're ready with the current digital tools to understand what is evolving, how it is evolving, how is our ability to adopt, these tools are available. It is quite surprising when we started learning about how AI and ML can do something for the refineries. It is amazing because we have the data with us. The refineries are generating data in minutes, millions of data. We have got a huge availability of data with us, and most of this data, I understand, compared to other industries, are clean data. Because we want to operate a refinery, our instruments has to work, our data capture has to be there, because it is essentially very, very clean data, the best input for the new digital tools to understand where we are, how we can change, what is the way forward. So this is potentially not a choice, but we have to be very, very careful. People are talking about digital refinery. I'm unable to understand what it is, but let us have a detailed knowledge about what is this digital thing, how it is going to help us. And I'm sure that almost all refineries, almost all oil companies have already started. MOP NGOs also came up with a approach paper on using digital. This is extremely essential. This is again our smartness, how we are going to adopt digital to our thing. There was a time when we are going from pneumatic to DCS to better control systems, optimization controls, and this is the next thing that we have to take up. And this is much, much stronger, powerful than the tools that we have so far employed digitally in the refinery. So to have a smooth transition, to have a viable transition in a country like India, we have to be always on alert, and we have to be always on collaborative mode. It is no more a competition within the oil companies. We are all going to compete with a different set of fuels, different set of energy. Maybe we are part of it, maybe we may not be a part of it. So let us have collaboration. That is the beauty of conferences like this. We are able to share our thoughts. We are able to get more information from this. That is why I firstly said the theme of the conference, that smart to sustainable is not for a future. It is something we have to do so fast, immediately. I appreciate the organizers for selecting such a very relevant, appropriate theme right now. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Panicker, for that address. Definitely, the per capita consumption of petrochemicals in our country is going to increase. But being sustainable is something that we should do today and not put it off to tomorrow. Thank you so much for that address of yours. Shri B. Ashok, the CEO, PCL, the former chairman of Indian Oil Corporation, unfortunately could not join us today because of an emergency. But we look forward to hearing from him in the future. To conclude this inaugural session, I would request Shri B.N. Bankapur, former Director Refineries, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, to please deliver his closing remarks. Mr. Bankapur has more than 40 years of experience in oil and gas industry. He's a project management expert and one of the only 12 numbers of IPMA USA certified level A project directors in our country. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Bankapur. Over to you. So I would request you to please unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Anisha.
Now we can hear you.
And good morning and to all the inaugural speakers, as well as the delegates and exhibitors for this Congress. I am extremely happy to be part of this Congress, as well as I'm thankful to the organizers of GRPC 2020, as well as the Energy and Climate Initiative Society for giving me an opportunity to be part of this session. It was a wonderful hearing to my colleagues, Mr. Jain, Ms. Vartika, and Panicker. I think it was a fantastic deliberations. But as everyone has said, there are challenges. Of course, there's a need to shift from changeover to the newer ideas, newer activities, and compete with alternate fuels, alternate energy sources. But as I said, the refineries and petrochemicals, as per the many global studies as well as the Indian studies, indicate a strong base for them for at least next 15 to 20 years. The primary energy demand in the country is expected, as per the projections, by about 63% in India by 2030, which is only 10 years hence now. And similarly, the share in the world energy, which is today at about 6.4%, is likely to go up to 9.1% by 2030. And of course, there's a increased pressure of CO2 emissions, which also is likely to go up from 6.7 to 10.6. What I'm trying to say is this: when the primary energy increase is as high as going to be 63%, there is a place for each type of energy, whether it's gasoline for vehicles, whether it's EV or it's solar for electricity. I think everyone has a part of its, part of the cake, and it only depends, as Vartika said, competitiveness of each of the fuel. So there's the customer will have a variety of choice of fuel. He can go for EV, or he can go for gasoline, or he can go for solar or bio or whatever. So, but then how to make this happen and how refinery can be competitive? That is what is the major issue which I think all of us has to look at. And Mr. Panicker had very nicely or deliberated well on all the issues which our refineries are facing. As every one of us know, the margins, as he also said, is almost not there nowadays, with the cracks between the product and the crude oil almost nil. And sometimes I think only one product which is positive compared to our crude price. So under these circumstances, it's very important that the operations of refinery has to be in such a way that you make profit. How that can happen? That can happen for a variety of ways. One is efficiency improvement, maybe we'll look at. And Mr. Jain also talked about that our processes, technologies have to improve a lot in the sense that our efficiency are better, conversions are better, improved catalyst would certainly give a better conversions, and thereby have a variety, better pricing for the product. Now, similarly, the COVID-19, though it is temporary, has brought out a couple of things for the refineries. Initially, when the COVID started, the lockdown started, the refineries had to bring their throughput levels almost to 50%, only because there's no product demand. That, however, they are forced to run, even if it is not profitable to run, because they wanted LPG. So LPG demand picked up while other product demand were not at all there for some time. And even today, there is a mismatch on the requirement of gasoline versus diesel, LPG versus ATF. ATF today is almost not there, almost 25-30% low than what it used to be. So under these circumstances, one factor which I think is important for refineries to look at is to create a flexibility of producing various products. Whether it's, if I want to maximize gasoline, I should be in a position to maximize at the cost of maybe diesel, crack it, whatever. That's why I'm saying there's a technological intervention is a must, so that we are able to convert one product to another with ease, with the existing configuration of the refinery. That is where I thought it's one area which has to be done under these circumstances. The COVID-19 situation has taught that to us. Second thing is the margins are going to be low in any way because of the cracks and the crude availability being surplus with the alternate energy media coming in. We are talking about solar in a big way for the electricity generation. We are talking about electrical vehicles. We are talking about biodiesels, biofuels, even bio ATF. So considering all that, we have to be a competitive pricing. For that, we've got to operate our refineries and in a much better way. So how it can happen? One, I said, is improving the processes, and second is to increase their run lengths. I think today we got to take the shutdown by 2 to 3 years time. So if we can extend it to 4 to 5 years with better metallurgy or better operating conditions, why need to have a high operating conditions for hydrocracker? Let's say when we operate hydrocracker, we operate at 180 bar and 400 degrees centigrade. Why there could be some catalyst which could bring the operating condition to low, so our working cycle length of the turnaround goes longer. I think these are the technical interventions which need to come. And second thing is on the value addition, it's necessary, as Mr. Panicker rightly told, the integration with the petrochemicals. There are thousands of petrochemicals, as he also mentioned. We should. In fact, I remember about when we were young, Professor M.M. Sharma, he used to say that naphtha using for fuel is a crime. And that was about 30 years back. And now today we still do the same. I think that is what we need to convert all our petroleum products to the extent of petrochemical. I would only not say that go to the intermediate, like we are happy to make polypropylene, polyethylene and leave it. I think we may even consider going down below. Why not use polypropylene to do cumene or phenol or something like that, which are much more value-added product. And as Mr. Panicker rightly said, there is huge demand of polymers which need to be bridged in the country, which is today imported. And even our consumption itself is almost 1/4 or 1/5 of the world per capita requirement. So these are the few things I think which needs to be done. Second thing is another one which COVID-19 has taught us is how to operate a plant with lesser number of people and more efficiently. One way is to bring it more digitalized, as Mr. Panicker said. Also, why not have a control system somewhere away from the site and leave only operating people at the site? And that could be one area where the number of people at a refinery would be much lower, and avoiding the virus infection like it happened in some of the refineries where several people got into that. So that could be one area. And digitization and operating from a distance and controlling. It is not a new technology or something new. There are some companies already working on this. Like for example, some multinational company having hydrogen unit all over the globe, one control room, while the actual physical operation is done at site. So something like that we can think of, rather than concentrating so many people on a control room in one place. These are some of the thoughts I thought I will share. thanks to all the eminent speakers who have given valuable, inputs into the insight to the making the refineries, petrochemical complexes smart and sustainable. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bankapur, and I would like to thank all our speakers who have joined us in our inaugural session and shared with us the wealth of their knowledge. Certainly, going ahead, we are not going to see perhaps the per capita consumption going down. We only hope that as a growing country, we will see an increase in energy being used by Indians, and we will all find energy and create petrochemicals which will be sustainable and will be cost effective as well. A big thank you to all of you for joining us this morning. We have a very important leadership panel coming up, but we're just going to take a 2-minute break, a short break to have all our speakers log in and ready to address everybody. Thank you all for your patience, and thank you all to our esteemed speakers for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.